Episode 324, Dylan Mullins, the man, the myth, the legend. We have a kind of a belief system that either we're going to push you up or we're going to push you out. I don't want to be around 5 other people that aren't pushing themselves to succeed. Success isn't about taking, but giving value first. Compensation follows contribution always. This is true authenticity. It's the truth. Every week, this is our story. We share with you our journey. We share with you our scars.
Please welcome your host, Cobb Backer.
What up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Man, I hope everyone has been out enjoying the sun that at least we have been experiencing. It's been nice. I needed some sun on the face, needed some sun on the skin. And today we have a good friend of mine. I met Dylan, 4 or 5 years ago at a retreat. Revolt retreat, and Dylan has been on the show, I think probably about 2 years ago was the last time you were on. And Dylan has become a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, we don't connect enough. At least that's how I feel. But I love listening to him speak. He is an amazing speaker. It's a lot of wisdom. I take everything that he says to heart, and I deeply listen when he speaks. But now he's doing a podcast, which I haven't seen yet. He is the owner, founder, CEO of All American Roof Pros. And here he is, my good friend Dylan. How's it going, buddy?
It's going, man. How am I supposed to follow that up? I don't know if I live up to all the hype that you just threw out, man, but I can say that with some serious confidence. Sorry, I'm not the best on camera on these podcast things, but I can say with some serious confidence, man, that it's right back at you. Like, I literally value you as a very close friend, and I agree with you. We don't connect as much as we should, but either way, man, we're just out here doing the best that we can with what we got, So excited to be on today. Yeah, it has been 2 years. I think the last time was when I swung through your office and we did an impromptu on a random Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So excited to chat with the audience and see what we can provide with some truth bombs today.
That's right, man. I love it. And you randomly popped in last week too.
I did.
And I'm guilty. You seem to be always the one that kind of comes over here and pops in. And unfortunately, I don't get out into your neck of the woods very often. But I should probably surprise you like you did me. You're an hour away. Like, hey man, you gonna be around? I'll be in. Oh shit. Anyhow, I was feeling under the weather, but I feel a lot better today.
Good, man.
So yeah, you know how it is. Sometimes the rain, and I think sometimes I suffer from like seasonal, I hate the word depression, but I think I kind of go through a funk sometimes. We had been experiencing like 5 days, if it wasn't fully raining, at least cloudy, dreary, misty, recouping from the cold ass weather, which I know you're experiencing out there too. And I think after a while, it just kind of seems to take a toll on my mindset. And I feel like when you popped in, but you did, just so you know, you lifted my spirits. By the time you left, I felt amazing. And I was glad that you came and shared again. You always share something new and interesting with me, like what you're doing with your company, what you're doing with your family. And you got, a family now. You have, a beautiful bride and a beautiful daughter, and you have another one on the way.
Yeah. In June, we become a family of 4. So obviously, that's always the highlight, man, is the family to me. And I know that's something you and I definitely connect with super deep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been the journey for me right now, is the fatherhood stage. Like, I've been, anybody that gets the opportunity to listen to our podcast, they'll hear that that's literally like all I talk about, because I'm in the trenches right now. Like, we are figuring it out with a 22-month-old. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a hot topic, but also too, balancing that out with a business. I get what you're saying about the seasonal thing. I go through it every single year. I remember when Tori and I first got together, it was probably the first time I actually identified it. And I think it's because of the business we're in is so seasonal based, and we need nice weather. And the first quarter always is going to take a down dip. It's the markets that you and I are in. And I think it's that way around the country. Nobody wants to do anything after the holidays anyways, right? Nobody's thinking about their roof. They're thinking about paying off their Christmas debt. So we see a downtick, and you start to, I think it's almost like this it's that thing in the back of your head that's always poking you. And it's like, hey, man, are you sure you still want to do it? I always say that it's God getting at me and going, you still want to do this? Like it's almost a test. There's a test every first quarter, and sometimes it's a kick in the middle section, if we will. We'll keep it a little PG today, but it's not fun. Business isn't fun. It is. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard. And anything worth doing is hard. That's the same way how that relates back to fatherhood, right? As a father, to be a good father it's hard. It's very hard. And if you take the business into the mix, man, it makes it even harder. But I get exactly what you're saying, because Tori was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you, in the dumps every winter? And it's like, well, we're not making any money. We're not putting roofs on. Sales are down. Like, you just come off this high of Q4 that's usually pretty strong. And now you're scrambling to try to put on roofs and praying that the snow doesn't come and we can get these things produced for these customers and clients that we've made promises to, so I get exactly what you're saying, man. And it came a little later for me this year. I don't know if it's the same for you. And then you go with the sickness and stuff, but it seemed to come like later in the quarter for me. It was like in the last month, I would say. I was hitting it.
For sure. I think, like I mentioned, it's just started to take a toll. I don't know if I was still on the high from Q4 and then all of a sudden just kind of crashed. And it comes and goes. It's not every day I'm sad.
Yeah.
But I guess I think with no sun outside, like I think yesterday was close to 86 degrees here. I mean, amazing. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I had to spend most of the day inside, but when I did get to go outside, it was amazing. But I agree with you. Being in the industry that we're in, there's ebbs and flows, there's seasons, there's challenges, there's good quarters, bad quarters. And I was on a call. We were on a call yesterday, and there was a gentleman. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yesterday he said, man, every time this year, like he prays for hail. And I thought to myself, thank goodness, I do, but not to probably the extent where his whole business model revolves around, hail coming. And I thought, man, geez Louise, I get it, because I have done that too. We have, a location down south now, and it's like one of those things where, it's like, man, hopefully a storm comes this year. But we've also put some other irons in the fire too, where things can kind of help carry us through. But when it's super duper cold out, like it has been, I mean, we've experienced the coldest winter. I mean, for as far back as I can remember, for the longevity of how long it was cold, right? So I don't care if you're in new construction, if you're in storm, if you're in retail, nobody is doing nothing. Nothing is moving. Nothing is going. And of course, the snow did create, the phone to ring with ice damming and things like that. But what are you going to do?
Exactly. And those guys that are, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Those guys that are chasing storms, they're not equipped to handle an ice dam, right? And honestly, as roofers, a lot of times that's a misconception that people have about, like, we can't control the ice damming, right? We can do things to prevent it, but we can't control it. And I think it was 2020 was the last time we really had a good ice dam season, right? And that was like legitimately the last real winter we had. I mean, if we think about it, we haven't had a real winter. So that's also what I think is playing into that, right? So we've been able to roof up through January into February most of the time, and that gets our books caught up so that everything's taken care of and we can start with a fresh slate coming into, the end of Q1 and the beginning of Q2 when things start really rocking and rolling. And I almost wonder if that's why it came later this year on the, we'll call it the seasonal depression side, but I call it's pretty much business depression, right? If we really think about it, it's our business that we're just like, you don't want to panic because we've been doing this long enough. I know you've been doing it significantly longer than I have, but you get in the groove where it's just like, it's something I got to accept, right? And you start to curb it. I kind of relate it to grief, right? Because grief comes in waves and it never really goes away. And you never get rid of that voice in the back of your head. He's never going to go away. You can squish him down as far as you think. You can think that it's gone, and you're still going to have that little thing called self-doubt punching you when it's convenient, right? And I don't care how many freaking seminars you go to, how many guys you listen to. It doesn't. I've done it all, man. I probably read over 200 business books at this point in my career. Mm-hmm. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there. You just got to figure out how to not panic when it's there, and how do you facilitate the conversation properly with your team to make sure that you're doing the right things. and learning from your losses. That's the biggest thing that we're telling our folks, is it doesn't matter that it's slow. We're going to do these things because we know that they end up producing in the long term, And another thing, about that call yesterday, a lot of guys in our industry, they don't have W-2 sales reps like you and I do. So we're carrying a burden through the winter, which I take as a blessing, right? That we're able to give these guys something through the winter to get by. So they're not having the control over their 1099 reps. And that's a real problem, because if they're not prospecting in the winter, that Q1 slow now becomes creeping into Q2 slow. And they don't realize that. Nobody's thinking that far ahead. You know what I mean? And that's something we realized once we switched from 1099 to W-2 is now I've got these guys all winter. We can go out and prospect and build relationships. We're in the relationship business. That's what I tell my guys constantly. This is a relationship business. I don't care if it's client, if it's vendor, if it's our crews, it is a relationship. And we have to communicate in those relationships. Referral partners are a big piece of that relationship. That's the word of mouth everybody's going for, right? And if our guys aren't out beating feet and making, smiles and building real relationships, whether that's in a BNI chapter or whatever that is, that's the perfect season to do it. Because by the time roofing season rolls around, man, everyone's busy. Everyone is going to be 60, 70 hours a week. I feel like they're never at home, and it's just part of the game, but you can't squeeze in that relationship time. Right. So you have to kind of find those fillers for your guys to still feel fulfilled. Because I think that's what we're lacking in that moment is we feel lack of fulfillment. We're looking at P&Ls. We're looking at freaking sales rates. We're looking at all the fun stuff. And that's what it really comes down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, so good. And again, getting back to how I introduced you, this is a perfect example of why I love listening to you, because you nailed every single aspect of from dealing with it, learning how to deal with that dip, that funk. Okay. And how do you react? Are you responding? Are you reacting and not panicking, and that's something that I've had to do, and that's me building my leadership ability, right? Do I panic? Am I showing my panic? Am I, how am I responding to questions from my team? And am I not handling that stress well enough? And I have handled it poorly over the years. And there's been times that I've had to learn from, my mistakes and know that this too shall pass. And I say that a lot to myself, like this too shall pass. But what am I doing today to move the needle? I'll also, that should be my second thought. And usually it is, but hopefully most of the time it's my first thought. Like, what am I doing today to move the needle? And like you were saying, like what relationship do I need to galvanize? What relationship do I need to create? Who do I need to reach out to move the needle today? And sometimes it's not even about like generating, prospecting revenue, but it's what am I doing for myself today? Right. I started doing these things where I do a 2-minute reset throughout the course of the day. I'll focus on my breathing for a minute to kind of help keep the anxiety down. Am I eating right? Am I getting enough rest? Am I, doing all of the things that I know we both have been working on over the years since we've known each other, at least, what am I doing to help myself get through these gray times, right? Because I don't want to call them dark times, but these gray times that we tend to experience isn't the time that I back off. It's actually the times that I double down. I double down on my regiments. I try to get more rest. I try to do more exercise. I try to play more sports. I try to hang out with my family more often and make that time more intentional, because I know in a month or two, things are going to pick up and I won't be able to have that intentional time, with my family. And they know it. They know the drill. We've been doing this a long time together, and thank God for my family and for being my rock and my support and all that good stuff. But I loved how you were talking about, referrals and especially prospecting referrals and solidifying and galvanizing those relationships during those down times, because even though those people may not have anything right at that particular moment, that new prospect that you just mined, okay, they may not have anything, but when things do start to pick up, it's one more thing in your repertoire for next year when things slow down. Once you get in that groove with this new prospect, right, and they start trusting you, because sometimes it takes time to build up trust. But once you get it, it's just one more thing in the fold for you to hopefully carry you through next year. And like you said, people don't think far enough out. And that's how I think. What plants I'm, planting, what seeds I'm planting today, I get to sow later. And that's what our job as the founders and the CEOs and the head figures of our companies, we have to think long term. We have to be, I'm not sure what that was. We have to think, 5 steps ahead of everybody. And Patrick Bet-David says it best. Again, I've read probably about 200 books, professional business books myself. In his book, Your Next 5 Moves, like, a grandmaster chess player already knows 12 moves ahead, 12 or 13 moves ahead, right? And you're a master, I guess, if you know your next 5 moves. Okay. So I try to, like, that book had really opened my eyes the first time that I read it, to think much further ahead. That is our job, is to think much further ahead. Like, what am I doing? Not necessarily to move the needle today, but what am I doing today to move the needle for the future of us, so we don't have so many ebbs and flows. And I usually go out and get so much work that we don't even know what the hell to do with it. However, so that creates a different kind of stress. But the stress we feel sometimes from the lack of work sucks compared to the stress of how the hell am I going to get all of this done today?
If you're a pet owner who wants real talk on training, behavior, and everyday life with animals, check out the Fresh Patch Podcast. Hosted by Drew and Gabe, we cover the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. So wherever you listen, search the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it.
Well, and I think oftentimes is this. I remember this early from early in my career, right? I wasn't worried in the wintertime about working on the business, right? And that's the perfect opportunity if you're in a winter market, is work on the business in those slow times, right? I've been building systems and processes. We're going through a CRM change. Like, I have tasked the team with more than they can handle. You said about the 2-minute thing. It's funny. I do it unintentionally to myself. I need to be more intentional about it, because I've had my fair share of blowups. I mean, I work at this place with my mom runs my office, my dad runs my production, my brother runs my sales team, and we're co-owners together. Like, there's plenty of blowups that happen with family, and I'm blessed with a fantastic wife who jumped into this thing with me and went feet first, right? She'll go wherever I say to go, and I'll go wherever she says to go. It's 110, 110 there. Mm-hmm. But we took the time to, now that we know, hey, it's going to be slow in January and February, when we're talking about projects in Q3 and Q4 that are going to be time consuming, that are going to take time away from clients, that are opportunities to get things done, to say, let's push that out to Q1. Like, we didn't launch this. We actually, ironically, the CRM change wasn't planned at all. We didn't want to. We were planning on staying and working and trying to dive through that. And then RoofCon, we had a great conversation with their team down there. And we're like, you know what? We'll go in feet first to that. And we're blessed enough that I wouldn't say slow, but we're slow enough to have that opportunity to dive into that. You and I had a conversation in your office the other day. It's scary for business owners right now about the AI stuff, right? And we see it all over the Facebook pages. And, we both said there's not going to be a time when our job is going away as a roofer, right? We're still going to have roofs to put on, because AI cannot take that job. The manual labor jobs are 100% safe. But are there opportunities in your business to make your people more efficient, right? And I was building an app that I was super excited about, and then this claw crap came out. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. And it turns out my app really is null and void now, because I can do it with some other AI tools, right? But that crap's evolving so fast. Mm-hmm. And that you don't need to focus on that in the Q2, Q3, and Q4. It's a Q1 project, right? Let's get it done in Q1. You can pump it out in Q1. You're not going to have time in the evenings. Like you said, if you're going to be intentional with your family, and if you're like the two of us, we value our marriage more than our business. Like, my marriage comes first. If the marriage was going to go away because of the business, then I need to change something in the business. If my job as a father was going to change, or was going to go away because of the business, I need to change something in the business. And we find the way to balance that. And once again, having supportive wives at home helps. That's the significant piece of that. I've talked to so many young men over the years who are young in their marriage. Wife's not prepared for what it takes to run a business, because we're the only guys who are dumb enough to quit a 9-to-5 to go work 80 hours a week and make minimum wage at best, right? Mm-hmm. And if your wife's not prepared for that, dude, like, it's not going to be fun. you have to have alignment at home. If that alignment is not there, because like, for instance, right now, I leave the house at between 6:30 and 7:30 every day, and I'm rolling into the driveway between 6:30 and 7:30 every day. I'm working 12 hours a week or 12 hours a day, even with, the slow season, because I am focused on getting the ship right. We're focused on trying to build as much back end as we can. I got off on a Trump leave there, but when you said about taking a deep breath, we had one of our marketing girls got a better opportunity. In that moment, I was a little bit irritated for a minute because it kind of caught me blindsided. We thought, she was going to be with us through the season and threw it on us towards the end of Q1. And you're like, okay. But it's an opportunity to pivot instead of just burning the ships or, it took a minute to figure that out because we had a 2-week notice and we needed to try to get as much out of her brain as possible to then be able to change systems and processes. But what we found was it gave us an opportunity to audit that entire system. Can I dive in and go in and say, what is broken here? Do we need this position? Not that I don't want to, put somebody in that seat on the bus if necessary, but do we need the seat? Can we do it with the people we already have? And we're able to do that. And once again, that's where I get into, I'm really geeking out on the AI stuff. I'm a super technical guy. I love I hate double data entry. My team still uses freaking spreadsheets all over the place, right? So that's one of the main reasons we're switching CRMs, because it wasn't built for us. But also, too, I hate the idea of people having monotonous tasks. What can we do to make their life more fun? I flat out told my team, this is not to replace your job. It's to make your job easier. I'm cool with you only having 4 hours of technical work a day. Let's go find an opportunity. I actually told them, you can go be my biz dev rep. Let's go build relationships. You're the ones answering the phone. So, we can set aside 2 days a week for each of you to go out. We have 2 of them in the office here for each of you to go out and build intentional relationships. What's wrong with that? There's nothing. There's zero wrong with that. But you have to be able to pivot in business. If you like the people, you'll find a spot for them, is what I found over the years, right? Yeah. But there's nothing that you can't get through as a business owner. You were saying in there about having the gray areas. One thing I constantly use is like, you're not having a bad life, you're having a bad day. And if you take the road of I'm having a bad life, every day is going to be bad. But you can have a bad moment. You can have that customer that calls in that you find out that you completely botched the install and you're going to have to reinstall that roof, and you're going to make $0 or -$, on the project. But instead of just being pissed off the rest of the time, you just say, hey, man, it is what it is. I'm here to make things right, because you're in the relationship business. I guarantee you, if you have that instance, we actually have that going on right now where it's potentially going to be a reinstall. We screwed it up. We took accountability. We screwed it up. If I have to do that reinstall, if he never gives me another referral or business, at least I know I can put my head on my pillow at night and that guy's taken care of the way that he should be, right? So, and you're going to go through that crap. Crap is going to happen. It all stinks. You just happen to be a business owner, and guess what? Your crap pile happens to be a little bit bigger than everyone else's, because you're catching not just from yourself, not just from your house, you're catching it from every single person that works for you. And as you expand as an organization, it's only going to get bigger. How do you mitigate that so that it's only, it's manageable, and eat the elephant one bite at a time?
Yeah, no, good stuff. Good stuff. Getting back to, your people, I've also noticed, with it, you said finding them. A lot of times, if they're good, they actually find themselves a position within your organization. And that's from my experience. I've watched Chris Baker create positions for himself that I didn't even know we needed.
Yes.
And and that's how you grow, because we give them enough room to expand and explore and create and dive into other things like that. And Chris has been definitely one of the big driving forces and innovators, behind TC Backer Construction. And same with Vic. Like Vic came in here, doing estimates and takeoffs and stuff. And his role has evolved into the complete opposite. He's over here now making sure we sound and look good. And he's like our AV audio technician guy, follows me around. He recorded me last night doing some training and stuff. And, if you can not be such a control freak, yes, and let people use their own brains and think for themselves and come up and take their ideas into consideration, because a lot of times when somebody brings something to me, we might go with the whole thing, or it might inspire me, to elaborate and change things a little bit. And sometimes I kind of got to scratch it. But as long as I know that they feel comfortable enough to be able to do that, and that I'm approachable, like, hey, did you ever think about maybe trying to do something like this? Because that's the thing of, I'm trying to surround myself with smarter people in different aspects of things that, yes, I can do them, but I don't have the time to do it. And I would prefer you to do it because you do it much quicker and you've done it a lot longer than I have. So why not let them do it because they're better at it? Okay. And being able to do that, because a long time ago, we've always had a good culture. Okay. And I'm screaming from the rooftops, go, 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 grow, grow, grow. And I've mentioned this several times on this podcast. And the problem was me. I had 3 fingers pointing back at me. Okay. As I'm trying to point the finger at everything and everyone else. Everybody was literally standing or sitting outside my office door, waiting for me to come out the office door and tell them what to do. Every single, I don't want to say second, but what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? Right. I had taught them not how to think, for themselves, but what I had to do was actually teach them how to think, on their own and make decisions, do choices. What's the next thing? Right. And allow them to make mistakes, allow them to make errors. Okay. Because that's how I've learned over the years, is through trial and error. Right. So if I allow them, like, what do you think? And that's probably the biggest thing that I ever picked up from Craig Groeschel was, when somebody does come to me with a question about something, is firing back at them. What do you think?
That's good.
And then you decide. And that empowers them. That just right there, you've just empowered your team member to go outside that door. And they're thinking to themselves, wow, he actually trusts me to go out here and F this up or figure it out. And when you can start doing that, and for me, man, that took a long time. I bet 8 years. We've been in business this year, 18 years. And I bet that took me my first 8 years. And I still was pulling back. It'd be taking, like, I'd give it, but now I'm giving it back. Oh, no, give it back. But now, not saying that I still don't have my control freak moments, but that's when we really started to explode. When I was empowering, allowing people to make decisions on their own.
Is your podcast driving real results, or does it feel like a lot of effort with very little return? If you're a podcaster using your show to grow your business, then Podcasting Amplified is the podcast for you. You may have launched expecting listeners to flock in, but instead you're stuck on a handful of downloads while juggling recording, editing, promotion, and wondering what's missing. Well, Podcasting Amplified delivers no fluff episodes packed with real-world tips and strategies on positioning, recording, growth, and turning your podcast into something that actually supports your goals. So search Podcasting Amplified on your favorite podcast app today and start building a podcast that gets results.
Well, and I think as a business owner, it's important to understand what every person is doing, but we should not be the ones that are telling them how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. I am constantly, one thing I tell my team, we just had our team retreat 2.5 weeks ago, and every meeting we have, it doesn't matter if once we're in a room as a team, I tell them, this is not the Dylan and Brandon show. This is not all about us. This is y'all's company that we just happen to be able to lead, that we had the guts enough to go out and start. You guys are the ones that make decisions for yourselves. We're doing this CRM build. I have zero idea. I've completely delegated, hands off. Like, I've had to answer some questions along the way about how we want processes done, but we've turned the keys over to one of our inside sales reps because she's the one working in it every day. Why would I design it in a way that we don't work, right? When you're exactly what you said is right, but I think there's a fine line too of delegating and leaving them with complete free will, right? Yeah. Don't allow them to stay in their lane. Have those meetings that are intentional. They don't have to be 2-hour meetings. I loathe meetings. I hate being in this office right now. Like, this makes my skin crawl. I don't know why. I'm a busybody. It's a hard task for me. But when you have a meeting, it can be 5 or 10 minutes. Like, hey, what are you working on? What can I help with? What do you need decisions on? So that way we can get it done, and stopping in and checking on that. One thing I always go back to is John Maxwell's principle of leadership of the 80-20 rule. If they're 80% of the way there, turn it over to them and they'll turn it into 110% better than you could ever do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And you have to have that ability to do that with some checks and balances in place, because we've had folks over the years that we've kind of just handed the keys over to a different aspect of the business, and they didn't understand. We did not. And that's the other thing as a leader, right? I have to be the one that take accountability. If I didn't teach them well enough, that's on me. That's not on them. Right. It's not their fault that they didn't understand how that should be done. So don't chew their head off because you failed as a leader. And a lot of times we're just projecting our feelings, right? Like, I think most of the time, even in those early years, we knew that we fucked up. We knew it was a screw up on our part, but we didn't take the accountability internally to go, it's my fault. I should have done better. And you could be agitated about it, but projecting it to that person, you're not going to hurt them the way that you feel hurt inside. You know, it's something we teach our kids. If you're just mad at someone and you decide to go smack them in the face, a lot of times you're not going to make them feel the same way that you feel. So having that same principle inside of your business, because these are kind of our kids, right? Like, we're just kind of dad. We're the boss of the house, right? Mm-hmm. So having those same principles in a fathership role, because we lead our households, we lead our businesses, and just sitting down with them and going, hey, man, we did screw up. We screwed up together. We're going to figure out how to work back through this, and then taking a little bit of time to just go, all right, how do we unravel this? You know, that's kind of what we do when someone leaves and we're doing it too late, right? Mm-hmm. We're doing it too late in that moment. And whether they left for a better opportunity or not, we should still be auditing the processes and understanding exactly what they're doing and make sure they understand what you're trying to get out of them. And that's another thing that we've struggled with. Some of these positions are hard to have KPIs with. You know, sales is an easy one, right? How many numbers did you put on the board? How many doors did you knock out? But when you're talking about inside sales reps, what are their metrics? Their jobs change a little bit day to day, especially with a smaller company or trying to be efficient. So are we tracking them properly? That we just reset the standard on the business. I think we've got some pretty intuitive ways to do it, because we have in-house production just like you do, to build them and hold them accountable to some KPIs, because it's a department we've just kind of been lax on, because, you know, it's a little bit more profitable than it is than to hire subs for us. Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? And then how do we incentivize them? And how do we track their KPIs and hold them accountable and all these other things that are important to a business? Right. And that big thing of fatherhood, right? When you set a boundary for your kids and you say, don't do this, and they do it, what's the ramifications? Or when you give them the ability to go out, you know, I know you've got Rocket, who's old enough to drive now. I'm sure that you and Jana had a sit down conversation with, hey man, you know, these are the rules for the vehicle. Yeah. And what happens when he goes out of bounds? Do you have real ramifications? You know, are you the overly strict parent that everything comes crashing down the second they do something wrong? Or are you the guy that's just like, it's fine? Or are you the guy in the middle, which I think the guy in the middle plays the best in the whole thing, right? Like, hey, we screwed up. Let's figure it out together. You still have punishments. We still have to, there's still a reaction to our action. But a lot of times as business owners, we fall into one of those two categories, right? We're either too lax, and our leaders are doing the same thing. They're either too lax, or they're, you know, way too damn strict, and nobody wants to work for him because that guy's an asshole, and I never want to go into his office and talk to him because he's just going to explode on me because of, you know. So we got to find that middle ground, and that's the hard part as a business owner and a leader, especially as teams grow, as the landscape evolves. Like, these are living, breathing organizations. They're changing constantly. How are you changing to change with the organization? You know, I'm happy to say that we haven't got to the point where a conversation's had to be had as I'm the right person to lead, because I've been able to grow as much as I can, right? But there's a lot of guys we've talked to throughout the industry that they've had to have that hard talk with themselves. Am I too big or too small for this thing? You know? Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and that's a legit question to ask yourself. Like, you got to keep growing. You got to stay out in front of the team, you know, but I love what you were talking about. And, you know, and this doesn't, you know, figuring this thing out doesn't happen overnight. And I've been guilty of not giving good enough directions, you know, and in my office, you were in my office, there's a cemetery across the parking lot there. And one day I had like this thought of, you know, I'm guilty of telling someone, hey, go over to that cemetery, but not giving them real direction. As I'm sitting there watching this limb scrape across this tombstone, I really meant to say, go over to that cemetery over there, and there's a limb that's scraping across this tombstone. I need you to grab the chainsaw, grab a rake, and go over there and do it. But this also goes back to hiring the right people. Okay. If I give them enough direction, okay, they'll go over to the cemetery. And when they're over there, they're cognitive enough and looking around, they'll see 3 other headstones that are being damaged. And I might get a quick text message. Hey, when I was over here, there was actually 3 other headstones that were getting destroyed. Do you want me to take care of them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I'll come back, right? They raked up all the leaves. They took it upon themselves. This is where you give them enough room.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing you know, they've trimmed up 8 different trees. They've saved 12 other headstones, and it just looks immaculate. Okay. But the other side of that is when I told them just to go over there, I would come back an hour later and be like, yo, dude, like what, you didn't do anything. And they're like, well, you didn't tell me. I'm thinking it was trivial. Like, what do you mean you didn't see that the tombstones were getting freaking damaged by that tree limb? Now, I kind of made that up, but I had an epiphany one day with my nephew was sitting in my office, and I was like, dude, I give poor direction sometimes.
Yes.
But having surrounded yourself around the right people, you just got to kind of sort of create the framework.
Yes. Okay.
And hand it to him like, look, I'm not the best at this thing. And I chat GBT'd it the best I could. And, but here, I know you're really good at this, but this is the framework. One of the reasons why I brought this up for the longest time, we've always had core values. And I don't remember the original 5 core values that we had. Okay. Cause we were talking about giving them enough rope and providing, you were talking about KPIs and things like that. So I believe a business is built. Well, I have what I call the trifectas, and one of a few trifectas, okay, is a 3-legged stool. Okay. And the seat of the stool is the base of your business. But what's holding that up is this 3-legged tripod. Okay. And it's core values, SOPs, and KPIs. Okay. And that's your guide rails. Okay. And starting with SOPs, that way, when you're training someone, you're like, here's a hard copy of what it is that, this is how we do it. But, okay, follow the process till it fails. Just trust the process, because a lot of times you'll give somebody something and they'll come in and they're like, oh, why do you do it this way? Because just do it. Just do it till I know you know how to do it. Then come and give me your feedback. Okay, I'm not saying we can't change the SOP, but for now, here's your guide rail. Go in, do it the way, because now it's not hearsay. Because I used to do it hearsay. I used to train people by hearsay, and I'd come back an hour later and they didn't do it the way that I thought I told them to do it. And they say, well, you didn't tell me to do it that way. But now they can't tell me that because I have a hard copy or digital copy of the SOP. Now, where the real true guidelines come in play is your core values. And if before every meeting, and this is a true story, we have one individual read our mission statement, and we have before the meeting starts. I don't care how big or how small. And we have a lot of meetings here because I believe communication is key. Okay. So they'll read the mission statement, and then somebody gets to pick one core value and read it and what that means to them that day. And that's on the forefront of everybody's mind all the time. It never falls through the cracks. Okay. As long as they're staying within that, I don't care if you have a decision to make today and you can't get a hold of somebody. Look at your core values. Am I staying within this? Am I going to hurt anyone else? Am I meeting the company halfway? And like our core values is upholding ethical practices, fulfilling our fidelity, leaving no one behind. Achievement unites us, surpassing expectations. And number 6 is competitive greatness. Okay. And then I have them written out. I don't just have words on the wall anymore. I actually have a few paragraphs under each one and exactly what that means. And anytime a new hire comes on, the first thing, if it's not myself, it's one of our leaders in that department, explains to them exactly what these core values mean. So here is the rules. These are our 6 traditions. These are our guide rails. If you stay within these guide rails, you cannot fail. And if you find a loophole, let us know. Okay. Yes. And then you got your SOPs. Okay. And again, I'm okay with adjusting the SOPs because, like you said, there's AI now. There's smarter people that come into the organization. There's new technology that we're downloading. There's all these different things. So yes, SOPs are not one and dones. That's something I learned the hard way too. Okay.
Yeah.
As we bring on new people, it's constantly, it's not static. It is definitely fluid. They'll move. Okay. The other thing is KPIs. And there are a lot of things you can't set KPIs to. Okay. And those things that you can't, but you always fall back to the core values.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, that was kind of my ramble as I was, thinking when you were talking, because I know it's difficult. And none of these things, every single one of our core values have been built. I didn't just pull things out of the air. These things have been built as a team, as a company, as our culture grew. These are real living things that we've experienced, especially those of us that have been here a long time at the company. These are things that we've experienced over the year. So it wasn't like I just copied and pasted some shit from somebody's book, or I heard it at a retreat. Maybe there was some things that I picked up at a retreat. But I brought them back to the team and I was like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And they knew right where they were coming from. They knew because we experienced these things, good or bad. And we want to make sure that they never happen again, or this is what we expect of you. It's the standard. It's kind of like the standard. And the standard is like you should surpass, the expectation. The standard is kind of like the mediocrity, right? You're not just meeting the standard, you're exceeding the standard. And we try to keep it as realistic as we possibly can, but we also want to make it a little difficult too, because we need you to work for it. We want you to earn it. So then you can take pride in it.
Yeah. And I'm stealing that, because our 5 are happiness, ethical, accountability, respect, and team. They fell out to heart, and it's all American heart. That's how we define it. And the team, same with you. We just used to have generic core values that were I couldn't even tell you what they are. Right. But I think you hiring and firing on those core values is so important to your culture, because if the people know exactly what they're getting into based on those 5, 6, try to limit it within that. I mean, if you can get down to 3 or 4, that's even better. Yep. Right. But creating definitions for those, that's something we haven't done, right? I think the words are somewhat self-explainable, but how do we use them inside the business? Like when I sit down with an interview person, I always ask them, what is the one that works for you in your personal life? If you're not living these day in and day out, I don't care about anything else. Like and for me, the one in an interview, and I've had a couple people over the years that, like, I struggle with ethical. I'm like, then you don't work. Like, that's the one I can't help you with. I think that's something that's intrinsically ingrained in us. If you're not an ethical individual, what are you doing working here, right? But the other thing you said is the standard thing. And actually, I picked that up from Eric when he said that they have standards for the company. I think we've overlooked that over the years as owners. What's SOP stand for? Standard operating procedure. Mm-hmm. Standard. Why are you not setting standards inside your company? And then that's the minimum. That's what we're expecting of you. Everything past that is that's what we want. We want you to be past that. So setting those standards and those guardrails for your people in place as to what do we want from them. And it, like you said, there's some that are hard to define, but getting them as dialed in as they can so they know what they're doing. The story about the limb, and yeah, I know it's just an analogy for the most part, but also I know your character, and I know you've probably sent guys over there to do that. If you're not giving them exactly, like, they don't need exactly to the T of what they should do every day. You don't need to block schedule them every single day.
Or you have the wrong people if you have to.
Yes, you need people. Like, granted, there are some roles that they need that, like, right? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I get that. But inside of what we're doing as small business owners, they need to be able to independently think to a degree. They need to have a little bit of rope. Honestly, it makes work more fun. It makes it so that it's easier to recruit. It makes it so that dollars aren't as important to them. I think in this post-COVID environment, I was just having a conversation about this last night at dinner. What has changed is people aren't as worried about money. They want stability, and they want somewhere they feel like they're fulfilled, right? When we were all locked down, us as roofers, not as much, but when everybody was locked down for that 12-month span, depending on where you lived, plus or minus, everybody realized, I just want fulfillment and I want stability, because the world came crashing down. The post-COVID environment that we now hire and fire in, is so much more important. Something that we kind of, I guess it's a brag to a degree, but a good test to your culture is when you fire someone or they leave, are they trying to come back? Almost every employee that has either been fired or left has asked for their job back. And at that point, the door's shut. I'm not bringing you back. Why would I bring you back? The company's already changed. You saw something better. We clearly weren't offering it. You're going to leave at another point. Unfortunately, it's just something you have to take as a leader. I don't care what they were as a producer. We've done it. And we've learned that's a real tough lesson. That's a tough pill to swallow. I don't care if he was a $2 million producer. He left for a reason or he got fired for a reason. Why are you bringing him back? It doesn't matter on the dollars. Protect your culture more than you protect your bottom line. That is the most valuable piece you have. Something that we went through a couple of years ago. Actually, I think it might have been right after it was April Utah retreat. Our entire sales team quit on that retreat. They quit or were fired. And for me, in that moment, I remember sitting in Minneapolis airport and I'm like freaking, that was a moment where I was like, that wasn't a test from God. I felt like at that point, I'm like, he's telling me to just hang it up, man. Go do something else. Right. What sold it though, is when I got back, I had every single person that worked for me that believed in the mission still. And they said, teach me how to climb roofs. Teach me what I have to do. I'll take appointments. I'll do this. And it was wind back in my sails for me to go out and say, we're going to build it back better. It was my first opportunity as a business owner to go, there's clearly something broken in sales. Let's sit down and figure it out. And now we've got the strongest sales team we've ever had. The guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're adhering to the core values. Part of that was we were switching from 1099 to W-2, which you and I had a bunch of conversations about because it's scary, right? You're making this change and you're trying to figure out how the numbers work, but it's stability for people. It's that post-COVID environment that good sales reps want, at least the ones that we want. I'm not looking for somebody that's just going to try to sign deals. I'm looking for someone that's wanting to take care of our clients. And that was something for me that was a major eye-opener, man, is we have the culture right. We just didn't have culture right in sales. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool, post that exodus, I guess we call it, and now look at where we are today. And to me now, and I remember saying this to myself on the plane out after I left Minneapolis, I said, this is just a footnote in the book. This is just a small chapter. Now we get to keep writing. Mm-hmm. And I had to get out of my own way at that point. I had to get out of my own feelings. And when I got back here, Brandon and I and Dad and the rest of the team, we all said, you know what? We're just going to freaking do it. And that's what it took. But that's a good, if your culture is screwed up enough, it will come to a head. That will happen to you. And if you're not positioned in a place where your culture is healthy in other departments, it will probably be the end of your business, at least as you know it, right? You will not be able to sell jobs. You will not be able to produce jobs. That's another lesson I learned through that is that sales guys are not everything. Honestly, it's the top of the iceberg, right? Everything deeper than that is what takes care of clients and gets jobs done. Those are the people that, not saying the sales guys don't matter. They're the front facing, but everything below that is what makes a good business. Everything that you can't see under the water is what makes a good business. And if you just have a sales organization, you don't have a business. You're just a marketing company, right? You have to build all that infrastructure. At least that's my belief. There are plenty of guys who are successful, more successful than me, that are doing it in a different aspect. But I'm a firm believer that you have to have the backbone. You have to make clients feel valued. Everything we do is for the client. We do something at our meetings. We just started at this retreat. I'm going to have a chair, and that's our client's chair. If you're having a conversation that you shouldn't be having, act like that client's sitting in the truck with you and ask yourself, are you doing the best thing for your client? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones paying your bills. They're the ones that are important in the conversation. If you're not doing things in that aspect, if you're not upholding company standards, if you're not, for that matter, if your boss was sitting next to you, would you be having the same conversation? I don't need to be a big brother. I don't need to have every conversation. I don't need you to like me every day. We need to have a relationship of some type, but I don't need to be your best friend. Mm-hmm. But are you doing things in the best interest of the client and the company? Because it's not just you that matters. It's the team aspect. And I think that's something crucial to have in your core values is it, what does that team look like? And how are you exemplifying that team?
I'm April Hardy, crime victim advocate trained by Nova, founder of In Case I'm Murdered, and recent recipient of a $12,500 grant for intimate partner homicide prevention work. I've experienced domestic violence from both sides, as the employee whose performance suffered, and as the business owner who absorbed every cost directly. This is the Safe Work Advantage podcast that helps HR professionals and business leaders recognize risk, reduce liability, and protect their people.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've had definitely a couple go rounds over the years of why, I didn't know why things were happening for me at the time, but usually when something is happening for me, I feel like it's the worst thing that has ever happened to me.
Yes.
Which usually turn out to be the best things. And getting back to your point on the culture, I've had bad cultures. We have a great culture today, and I've got to see that in play. Okay. On the other side of that, once you create that good culture, that good, strong, deep, foundational culture, we've had people leave. Okay. Or we've let go, and to watch the team rally around like it sounds like your brother and your dad did. Okay. Fortunately, you have your family there, to watch our team rally around, okay, and get things done and fill in the blanks where this person was and build on that every single time that somebody like that in that position has left. And it hasn't happened very often, but it has happened enough that I know it's happening for us. It's either giving somebody else another opportunity to fill their shoes, or we found, and a lot of times we found the deficiencies in that person, and so many things become uncovered then. Like once they're gone, it's like, wow, they weren't even doing this. They weren't even doing that. And you realize how badly they were actually hurting your company and holding things back. Okay. But the important thing is that watching everyone rally around and watching them grow, watching the team get through the adversity, and how much better and how much stronger you are as a company getting through that. Vic, did you get that text message I sent you? I sent Vic a text message getting back to core values. I want to see if we can't play this video real quick from Simon Sinek. And where my head is when I'm, looking at the core values, and where I've gotten my ideas and thoughts from that. It's, our core values are built on not that we're the greatest roofing company at the cheapest price. It is much more than that. It's much more about purpose and roofing being just a vehicle to take us there, to have impact on many, 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 many people's lives, not only in the organization, but in our community. And then hoping that we've empowered and inspired and impacted our community so much that then they're able to play that forward for somebody else. But I want to see if Vic can't pull this little snippet up here real quick of Simon Sinek and truly what it's about. It's not about that we, are the cheapest or fastest and least expensive roofing company in the neighborhood. It's deeper than that. And that's not the message I want my team to have. It's not the culture I want to build, that we're the quickest, we're the fastest, we're the cheapest. I want it to be with purpose. I want to give value. I want the perceived value to be more than what they're receiving in value than what they're actually paying.
Well, it's like the someone uses sales guys a lot, the triangle, right? Cheap, fast, and good. You can only pick two. But there's I get exactly what you're saying, because there's another component to that is, are they a good company, right? Is what they're doing, is their mission bigger than them?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the fourth leg that we fall into, where we get to wrap three of them in there. Yeah. We're going to be fast and we're going to be good, but we're also going to make impact.
Right. Absolutely. And that's truly what it's about. How are you making out there, Vic? What's that? Okay. anyhow, but yeah, I mean, really at the end of the day, man, trial, error, ebbs and flows, family. I wanted to touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get off here, I mean, we don't have to, we're almost an hour into it, but so far our conversation has been on point I mean, I think about these things almost every day, Dylan, whether it's downtime, whether we're, full force ahead and in the midst of the season. These are all things that I continuously try to work on and grow and be a better human being. And really at the end of the day, that's what our core values are about. I'm not asking you to do something that I don't do already myself or I'm trying to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So when you come here, I know for a fact that anybody who has ever come to TC Backer and they're still here, okay, they are a different human being than they were when they first walked through the door. And the same goes yeah. And the same goes for those that may have left. And the only thing that I can do is what the toolbox that they're taking with them, that I hope that they can impact just as many, maybe even more people with the toolbox that they take when they leave here. And that's how I had to chalk it up when someone leaves, because it is sometimes detrimental, or it feels that way in that moment where it's like, oh my God, they're leaving, or oh my God, they left. The chances are, and like we say in the very beginning here, I think I was talking with Erico in our intro here in the beginning. You're either going to get pushed up or you're going to get pushed out. That's usually what happens. I usually don't have to let people go. They end up just getting pushed out because they can't keep up. The pressure's too real or whatever. They're too lazy. And the other thing that I'm on this kick right now is like, I just can't stand to be around lazy people.
Lazy and bad attitudes. Lazy and bad attitudes.
Meet us halfway, then you got to go, homie.
Yes.
Because we're all over here killing ourselves to make sure that you got food on your table.
Yes.
And you're not reciprocating that energy back to us.
No. And that's a great point, because like you're a product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So when I'm talking to people, to kind of touch on the family, and I can go into as much of that as you want, but when I'm interviewing sales reps, especially, I'm like, look, you are going to be at work more than you're at home, but your home life has to be in check. If it's not, we're going to have a bad time. We've all had reps that they had a jacked up home life, weren't happy, wife's mad because they're working, the spouse is mad because they're working, because I'm not excluding females from that, but there has to be a balance. You have to, we do a dinner interview because we want to make sure that the wife's on board for what you're about to take on. We're not some multinational Fortune 500 company. We are a small business. It requires people to work outside of the bounds, right? It's not a 9 to 5. It's not, it doesn't matter. And that's the thing, man. Like when you take that identity on that I'm taking more ownership of the business than the people around me, they start to take ownership too, because they see you pushing or pulling, however you want to say it. Sometimes you just got to do that. And some people just cannot handle the heat. It's just the facts of life. It sucks because you may have liked him as a person, but you got to take your emotions out of it to a degree. Hey man, you're just not cut out for it. I can't handle lazy. I cannot handle my least favorite word or phrase that's ever been in the vocabulary is it's not my job. If you are a not my job person, you don't have a job here. That is my philosophy. I don't do that game because, like you said, it doesn't matter who you are. The title is irrelevant. You still have to help the team. It is about the team, and the culture is so important to that. But if you don't have the good family life, I don't care what position you have, you're going to start coming to work and not having fun. It's not that this is all sunshine and rainbows and we have a cake every day, but it can be a fun place to work if you allow it to be. I enjoy coming to work. I want everybody else to enjoy coming to work. I have no intention of exiting this business today because I like what I do. My feet hit the ground with purpose every day. My people, I don't need them to be at that level that we are as owners, but they need to understand that they have ownership. My brother's in the other room. He's listening right now. He just said some of them do, and we're appreciative of that. And we love that. I want you to take ownership. I want you to be mad when a customer has a bad experience. Like, that's a good thing. But also, we also have to go, how can we fix it? I can't undo what's already done.
No, I love that. So our number 2 core value, fulfilling our fidelity, it says right in there that, let me read it to you. So going above and beyond to accomplish tasks, we recognize our responsibility to each other as teammates, to our families and to our clients and to ourselves. Assisting others in times of struggle is at the heart of our commitment. We take pride in never to evade our responsibility by declaring that's not my job.
Yes.
We embrace the challenge as an opportunity for growth and progress rather than the reason to shy away from our goals.
That's so good. I'm going to sit down. I'm putting that on my list this week. That in and of itself, though, that having the grit and because like we can't teach that, right? It's the intangibles that we're really looking for in interviews, right? I'm trying to weed out lazy. I'm trying to weed out the lack of work ethic, I guess would be the other word for that in our space. And I'm trying to weed out the people that aren't determined. If you're not determined, I don't care where you are. If you're the janitor or you're the guy out at the top of the food chain, you have to have a level of determination because you're going to be around these people a lot. And it only takes one bad apple to sour the batch, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of goes into the home life, right? If you're not balanced with the family, if my wife was just nagging on me every time I got home that I work too much and I this and that, and you go back, you said the communication. I believe that is the failure of every relationship. Mm-hmm. Work, personal, whatever. It's either miscommunication or lack thereof, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the two key pieces that I constantly am talking about. If you're not communicating, I tell Tori when I know I'm going to have a long week. Hey, when we went through that season, I told her, hey, look, you're not going to see me for the next 3 months. I have to go and make this work for my people. They're driving me. And I hope that I put the same amount of inspiration in them to want to go and work for this business, right? But you have to have that level of communication. My wife, I love her she is my best friend. And I always, whenever I get the opportunity to be introduced, if you will, I always put on my little sheet. I'm a Christian first, then I'm a husband, then I'm a father, then I'm a leader. And it's super intentional with that, man, because at the end of the day, you and I both know, because we've been at enough retreats, right? We've heard the talk, but I do firmly believe it. And I've been to enough funerals, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess I should say. It's a real blessing that I get to go and hear people's stories. Nobody is up there saying, my dad worked and I appreciate him for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody is up there saying, my dad made us a lot of money and he left us all this money. Nobody's on their deathbed, for that matter, saying, you know what, I wish it would have just worked a little bit more. Not a single soul that's passed on this earth. Not a single one. It was worried about work. No. What are we doing in our business to exemplify that? But what are we doing as leaders to make sure we're leading by example with that is the more important question. Yeah. When I'm at home, I'm intentional. Yeah, I'm getting home at 7:30. The baby's going to bed at 8:30. For that hour, we are rompus room right now. She loves to wrestle. She loves to go out and attack dad. And she's in that stage where she's doing everything we do, right? And it's amazing. This is down. I don't have this. This doesn't exist. I think it might have been, no, actually, I just read a book. Oh, I got to think of it. But we had a sermon at church, and the pastor said, if you put your phone down for an hour, is the world going to go away? Well, you're asleep at night, is the world going to go away? Right? Yep. And it's all about intentionality. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was a kind of a kick in the cojones, because I was like, holy crap, I'm on my freaking phone. I'm on my wife about it all the time because we're all bad on it. Those things are addicting as hell, man. That's like cocaine in your pocket, you know? So when you're at home, Joseph Hughes said it the best. He's the one I use all the time, man. Lock the phone in the truck for an hour. Nothing is going to be too drastic that you can't handle it in an hour. Yeah, no doubt, man. I try before I even go into the house, I try to clean up my inbox and review it real quick, respond back to any text messages that I have to. And I'm not perfect about it, but I try to at least be intentional in the first 5 minutes when I get there, to take the room's temperature. Like, do I need to be present for the next hour, or do I got 5 minutes where I just need to say, hey, babe, how's it going? Acknowledge the fact that she's there, because our kids are all grown now. We do have 3 grandchildren, and we actually have 2 more on the way. And then I just became a great grand uncle. So a great uncle. So that's the first for me. But we got a lot of babies that are coming out and around, and I get to practice now. I get to be even better than I was with my own kids. You know what I mean? So, and that's how I look at it. It's like, okay, where did I fail so badly? Or where was there deficiencies in my parenting, that I can make up for with being a grandfather or a great uncle. And God has blessed me with that, with do-overs. He's been giving me, opportunities to redeem myself where I may have failed with my first child, Jacob.
which our relationship is great right now, And, Mackenzie came to work for us. So she gets the grind. She gets it, and of course she's got Skylar, our youngest grandchild right now. And that Jana, we're blessed enough that Jana can stay home with her during the day so Mackenzie can come here. But we know that, we designed our life that way because we want Skylar to be like us, so she gets to spend most of the day, I think every other day, at least 3 or 4 days a week with Jana, being honed on who we are, what we are, that having that efficacy and that the morals and the time and the patience. And she is a mirror image of both Jana and Mackenzie. I mean, she is just so grateful, her attitude, and she's so loving and caring, and that's what we try today to instill in our children, is be empathetic, be caring, be helpful, give, and she exemplifies that. I mean, she's an example to me on such a great job that Mackenzie and Chris are doing with Skylar and of course Jana, throughout the course of the day. But family is everything. They're my why first and foremost, and then secondly is business, is my why, is my people, but first and foremost it's my family. And if shit's screwed up at home, like you said earlier, I got to figure out, usually it has something to do with work is why it would be screwed up at home, or vice versa. Something screwed up at home, and that's why my work life is messed up. But the thing that I've come to realize, okay, those that are out there, trying to chase this work-life balance thing, and especially as owners, okay, this doesn't necessarily, apply to, team members and things like that, but it does to a certain extent. It doesn't exist. Okay. Work-life balance doesn't exist. What I have found over the years is when I'm at work, and when I'm at home.
Yes.
And if I'm at work for 80 hours a week and I only get to spend 12 hours at home, those 12 hours, I better be at home. My feet better be there. Yes. My mind better be there. My head better be there. If Jan and I are going away and this is a work in progress. Okay. Because we'll take long weekends, and it usually takes me about a day and a half, to like decompress and remove and clean up emails and maybe take a call or two. But then it hits me, and she doesn't give me shit, thank God. But it'll hit me like this we're here because of her.
Yes.
So I spend time with her, right? Because she's at home keeping shit on lockdown there. I mean, bust her butt. She works harder than all of us because she's got to take care of me and everybody. Yes. Right. So we can't ever take that for granted, which I do sometimes. So when I do get a weekend with her, I need, or even an evening, I need to be there for her. With her.
Well, and something that you said that sparked for me is there's no such thing as balance. But what I think that we need to realize is that we picked the path of business ownership. Mm-hmm. Our families did not, right? Yeah. Right. We were the ones that decided to go on this path. So you're going to sacrifice time. That's just the nature of the beast. And yes, you'll have seasons where you're able to spend more time at home, like we've already discussed. Yeah. But when you're there, make it as quality as you can. Right? Mm-hmm. A quote I heard recently, and I don't have the citation for it, but it stuck really well with me, is we all die twice. Once when they put us in the ground, and once when they stop talking about us. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm hoping I make enough impact on the people that work here that they want to talk about me when I'm gone. Right. Mm-hmm. But it really falls into our kids. It falls into our grandkids. It falls into that quality, intentional time that we're spending with the people that we created that live here on earth with us. Mm-hmm. And if you're not intentional with that, like, I don't know about you, but like I have people in my life that are no longer here that I'm doing my damnedest to keep their memory alive. One that comes to mind, and Brennan and I actually we have a property management company called Acts 9 Ventures. That's the Acts 9 in the Bible is when Saul became Paul. Well, my grandfather's name was Apostle Paul. That's the first name Apostle, middle name Paul. Like, I am being intentional about keeping, because the lessons he taught me about being a man, about being a leader, about being a father, about being a husband, although he wasn't always perfect with it, were important to me. I want to keep that memory alive. I hope, that's my prayer, is that I instill enough in my kids. You said about you seeing your kids, getting that drive. I don't know. I've had conversations. I don't know if I want the entrepreneurship for my kids, but I've said constantly, if Lainey comes to me and she's like, "Hey, Daddy, I want to go work at McDonald's." Well, you better be the best damn burger flipper that ever existed.
Yeah.
Like, I just want you to be happy, and I want you to do your job well. That is what's important to me. If she decides to go down the entrepreneurship path, which there's a good chance because my wife caught the bug too, well, then we'll support her in that too. But it's the same philosophy. It doesn't matter what box she fits in. Yeah. Be good at it and do it well. Do it with pride. Take pride in what you do. Find happiness. Find fulfillment. Like if we can instill those in our kids, like, do you guys do affirmations with the grandkids at all?
No, we haven't.
So something that I'll say that we've done with Lainey, and I talk about it all the time because it's so damn cute. I'll send you a video of it. We do affirmations with her almost every day, and they're simple, right? She's smart as hell, but I can't get full sentences out of her. So I am strong, I am kind, I am beautiful. My wife's gonna kill me because I'm forgetting one. I'm smart, and then I love Jesus. We clap it, but the inflection in her voice, the power that we have in our words, and we think that, oh, she's 22 months old. She has no power in her words. She doesn't know what she's saying. When she says, "I am beautiful," just I am beautiful, like her voice, the inflection changes. You can hear her speaking into herself already at 18 months old that she knows she's beautiful. And if I instill those as a dad, if we instill those as parents, because my wife has just as much in that as I do, she can't, the world can't take her down. The world's a nasty place, but I can't change the world, but I can change my kid.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. That was so good. That was good. No, we don't do that, but we should definitely start doing that. That is great.
Yeah. Cause we do it with our people, right? We're constantly telling our sales rep, "Hey, you're the GOAT, man."
Yeah. I do it to myself, right. No, that's good.
What do you want out of your kids? What do you want out of your team? Those are the positive affirmations. Our words have power. Once again, I run a lot of stuff back to the Bible because it's just who I am as a person. But how did God create the world? He spoke it into existence.
Yeah.
How did what were we made of? In the image of God. We have the power. And I don't care. You don't have to be a person of faith to know that manifestation is real. It is very real. It's, our buddy Hunter Ballou said, the money's I was always a millionaire, but the check just hadn't hit the bank or whatever. He did that. We all have that innate power in us. If you take your kids and you say, "Look, I want this. This is how I want you to view yourself." And when that kid says that, "I am strong, I am kind," and they'll evolve, right? Kind of like core values. As she gets older, I am a strong-willed person. I am a leader. But at 18 months, man, I'm cool with getting 5 little phrases out of her. And we did little, I am strong. I am smart. I am kind. I am beautiful. Those little things, she knows. She'll do them, literally. And it can be done. But like I said, the inflection in her voice that changes is amazing. And now she'll go to the damn dogs and go, "I am beautiful," to the dog's face. And it's like, yeah, I guess it is. But no, man, that's something that I think I picked up. I might have been a stupid TikTok. I saw it, and I was like, that one little thing can help to just skew her in the right direction so that she knows if we're instilling these now, if you do it, because you have a 4-year-old, I know, right? Just had a birthday, a 4-year-old granddaughter.
Yeah.
Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
At 4 years old, man, we can plant. You talk about planting seeds, man. Plant those seeds now.
Yeah.
And
she's a little sponge too.
Yeah.
I mean, she is such a little sponge. No, it's good. That's so good. Wow. Well, that was definitely a great way to top this episode off, man. That was good stuff. And I always love catching up with you, man. And we always pick right up where we left off. That's what's cool about our relationship, Dylan. I appreciate you. I cherish you. You and Tori are just amazing people. And if you guys ever need anything, give us a shout. Give me a holler, man. And maybe I'll trek my butt on over to Ohio to see you guys.
Yeah, man. We talked about this in your office the other day, just being intentional with relationships, but also having strong enough clad relationship that exactly like you said, it can pick up where it left off.
Mhm.
That's what real friendship's about. It doesn't require things or even time at times, but the fact that, you can rely on that person, that if you picked up the phone and called, I think having people like that in your life, it helps this journey of entrepreneurship, because we were talking about how small the world can be in our little neck of the woods
Mhm.
versus, because it's lonely sometimes, right, for entrepreneurs. But
Definitely.
having somebody to just bend an ear on and knowing that, hey, man, we're still buddies, we can pick up the phone and talk to each other, and we're friends and we value one another, and that's important. I've learned so much from you, and I appreciate you so much, man. You and Jana are honestly some of Tori and I's favorite people on the planet, and
Same.
we've learned so much from you guys, and we appreciate and love y'all.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here, man. Well, that concludes this episode, man. It's always great to catch up with you, Dylan. Don't forget, keep building brick by brick, day by day. Courage is contagious. So go spread some kind of courage that gets shit started. So till next week, you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week for episode 325 of Behind the Tool Belt.
Thanks to our sponsors, TC Backer Construction, Hook Roofing Marketing, Roofle, and Project Map It. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. We are streaming on all major platforms. See you next week for another episode of Behind the Tool Belt.